Hey, I'm Suri. You're checking out Radio 1 Chicago.
Hi, this is Suri, and I'm live on Radio 1 Chicago, and my first song is going to be As I Am from my latest EP, As I Am. I go through all of the years, haunted by the reflections I see. Every figure demented, misshapen, never the perfection I dream. I was told I'm beautiful. If then why do the lies seem so real? Fearfully made and wonderful, only to be covered in shame. 'Cause I want you to love me as I am. Oh, will you be the one to save me from my say hello, say hello. Darkest corners are somehow appealing. It is that I can secretly hide. Then I make you the light of healing, exposing all of my world inside. 'Cause I want you to love me as I am. Oh, will you be the one to save me from my say hello, say hello. I'm drowning in self-obsession, self-obsession. But your beautiful face is my salvation, my salvation. I'm drowning in self-obsession, self-obsession. But your beautiful face is my great.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Hey everyone, you're listening to Alex here on Radio 1 Chicago. So joining me is the classically trained and jazz and pop influenced artist Suri. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really wonderful.
Good. That's what we like to hear when we're in the green room here at Radio 1. Well, that was the self-titled off of the latest EP,
Mm-hmm.
As I Am, which we will dive in a little bit later. But you know, first things first. Whenever a new artist comes into the studio, I want to know more about you and how you came to be a musician. So yeah, just tell us how you grew, like where you grew up in the city, and how you got to be where you are today.
Oh, great. So yeah, I grew up in Chicago, and I think I first lived in Bridgeport, and then moved to South Loop, and now is at the UIC area around there. And I started piano when I was 4.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. My mom knew what she was doing. I actually didn't like piano though until I was like 12, and I was classically trained, and so I went hard after it for a good number of years, and in the middle of college actually started to have a little bit of a crisis, identity crisis and everything, and wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going in it, but I had chosen it, so I finished my piano major. And then after I was done with college, I had my first piano teaching job in the middle of China.
Wow.
And yeah, crazy, I know. It was quite the experience, and it was during that time though that I actually never tried writing music, except I had all these things in my journal, like poems and things, and I had kind of played around with a song here or there in college, but then never went official about it until my friends confronted me and were like, you need to do this. Like, and I'm like, what? I'm like, no, there's no way. And I eventually started singing jazz at a lounge because one of my colleagues was like, your voice is incredible, I need you to sing with me on these jazz gigs. And it eventually became something where I was performing originals that I was writing during that time, and then it started to like tumble into something more. So
wow. That is crazy. And did you ever then think that, like, did you notice that you had like a perfect singing voice and like all these things, or was it something that you also studied in school and when you were taking piano?
I actually never studied it, and recently started to get more official vocal lessons, crazy like that. But I had grown up in a singing background though, having like choir be in the background, like I did at church when I could, and it was never, I was only kind of the backup singer for a very long time, and I think it wasn't until after college that it just blossomed, and it was a little bit of a miracle for me because I was like, wait, it was like as if it came out in the right time when I was starting to be ready for it, when I wasn't just focusing on playing Chopin for my recitals, and I needed to vocalize my heart. It was like there.
Yeah, and it just kind of found you.
It found me. Yeah, basically it found me. In a great way, yeah.
And then, so how long did you study then? Was it through college that you studied classically, and then you broke off from there?
I broke off from there, and I've been listening to other music before that, like listening to other singer-songwriters, and I was just like, wow, what they do is so incredible, and never thought that I could be that person. I would just like emulate these people and be like, Sarah Bareilles, like, whoa, things like that. So,
was it kind of like their, music that you're like, oh, I could maybe do this? Or was it always kind of the intention? Because even you said you taught, classical music. Was it always the intention that you would teach?
Yeah.
And it just kind of stick with it?
Funny, I still teach it. Okay. I'm at 3 fantastic schools here in the city, and they're all classically driven. And so I still have such deep reverence for that, the background, the history, the technique, all those things. I still hold a high regard to it. And I think it was not because I was emulating these people. I enjoyed their music, but I actually just wanted some way to express my journal. in a proper way that I just felt like words didn't do it. And I'm like, I'm a musician, my gosh. Like, why don't I just put melodies to this? And started plunking things out on piano and was like, wait, I actually kind of think I can do this. It was like, and then I shared my first song with my friend, and she's like, okay, really? And I was like, oh, no.
Like, it's something that everyone saw but you.
Yeah. In a way, yeah.
And how was that, kind of, moving towards your own style of it and writing and, putting the melodies together? How was that? Like, did you find that you hit a wall when you did it, or did it just come so naturally that, all of these things just came pouring out and came together?
Oh, yeah, that's so good. The sound for, I think the EP itself took a while, but initially what came out on the piano was very natural. I was actually very surprised by it. I was surprised by my voice as well, because I was like, oh wait, what is that sound? And then I was like, does this work? And it came to this moment where I just performed it for people. They're like, yeah, that works. And I think one thing I realized too, after being so trained, sometimes you forget intuition. Mm-hmm. You kind of forget not to analyze things. You don't construct things naturally anymore. And I had to step away from that and just I had all this music built into me. I mean, I started when I was 4. I just didn't try to use those tools on my own, and I kept playing what other people wrote for a long time, and then I was like, wait, actually I can write something on my own. And I just had never thought to do it. And then when I started doing it, I was like, wait, all these tools are already in my box. I just need to put them together, and I think this sounds pretty great.
That's yeah. Well, I mean, if you also have, that kind of push and support, from your peers and from your friends, that too kind of pushes you to, oh, maybe this is more for, shareable.
Yeah. My friends in the Middle of China were amazing. I think they were just a weird, not cookie cutter crowd, and they were also bold and adventurous and risky as well. I mean, to move to the middle of nowhere in a foreign country was like that. And so they were the type of friends that were ripe in terms of, I want you to take this risk. You're scared, but I'm going to push you off that diving board. Yeah, that kind of a thing. And so I was with the right people, I think.
And how long were you there then in China? Before you come back?
When I was there almost a total of 2.5 to 3 years.
Wow.
In 2 different cities, first in Kunming, China, and then Hong Kong. And it was actually in Hong Kong that I officially decided, man, this 9 to 5 is not working for me. It is really not working for me. I'm growing kind of depressed, and my students can make me happy, but at the same time, I feel like it was a sense of escape to teach my kids rather than facing what I really need to face, and figured out, wait, this singing, songwriting thing, I think, has to become more than just a side thing.
Mm-hmm. Was it always the intention to come back to Chicago then, or?
Actually, no. I'll be very frank and honest. After tasting the world, sometimes you're just you think your happiness is out there, but Chicago has completely surprised me in a wonderful way. I think it took me getting out of my hometown and feeling like I discovered myself out there, and then came back and I developed new relationships, I developed a new environment. I wasn't stuck in my old self anymore, and it was cool because I came back and I was like, what? That place is new. I've never seen that. That's such a cool hangout, and I would meet people like that. And they were all excited, and I had friends who moved into Chicago who loved it way more than I did, and it started to convince me that I was like, wait, there are so many gems in this city, there's so much history that I can be proud of, and there's no flavor like it here. So
I like that. I've never heard that sentence before, but I really like it. There's no flavor like it. It's true though. It's, you come back and just even like the littlest things. You could live in your city the whole life and still find something new every
Right,
time.
exactly. It's evolving, and Chicago is not pretentious, and I love that. It's just so chill.
It's so different from New York and, you know, like LA and all those big cities.
It doesn't need this, like, puffed up reputation, because it's just like, I know I'm great.
It just knows, right?
It just knows.
Well, I'm Alex, and you're listening to Suri here on Radio 1 Chicago. Let's definitely play another song off of the EP. This is Earth and Heaven, I think, right? You wanted to play. Yeah, and we're thrilled that you are playing live for us. Yes. Take it away.
Oh, you say this is what I want, or what we embrace, but they're just statues, they're just statues, they're just statues. False hopes you try, can't really admit you wanna be right, so you traded me blind, traded me blind, traded me blind. I am of earth and heaven, of the dirt and of the sky, the most of life when combined. Kisses that spark a star with effortless grace. I'll never leave you the same, never the same. No golden pockets or that found in markets, but curves in my cheeks. And knowing I speak, oh when I speak, oh when I speak. A rare find and a brilliant mind. I don't mind ruining you in the best way. I am of earth and heaven, of the dirt and of the sky, the most of life when combined. Kisses that spark a star with effortless grace. I'll never leave you the same, never the same. I am of earth and heaven, of the dirt and of the sky, the most alive when combined. Kisses that spark a star with effortless grace. I'll never leave you the same, never the same. Of the dirt and of the sky, the most alive when combined. Kisses that spark a star with effortless grace. I'll never leave you the same, never the same. I am of earth and heaven, of the dirt and of the sky, the most alive when combined. Oh, kisses that spark a star with effortless grace. I'll never leave you the same, never the same, never the same, never the same.
Earth and Heaven here on Radio 1 Chicago with Suri. So how long has this EP been in the making?
Good question. I think actually my first song came in bits and pieces my last year of college. Oh, you're gonna calculate my age.
No, I won't do that.
I feel vulnerable about that.
In the back of my head, I'm like, all right,
what is that? What is that?
Just kidding.
I think that it probably took a good 6-7 years. I think that was the first song, but it was bits and pieces again before I made anything official. I actually probably completed a good chunk of that song because my friend wanted to use it for his like short film. But then everything else came in a span of 3 years. Singing, songwriting, the rest of those songs came during that time, and when I was in China, and then I started refining them maybe for 2 years after that, and during those 2 years as well, figured out the sound that I have now as an electro pop sound, with my producer and all that stuff. So I would get maybe 6-7 years.
Yeah, like
really.
it's been a process in the making.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You have to go through the experiences too. Get that kind of material, you know.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like listening to the tracks off of the EP, they sound very personal. They sound very like heartfelt and sincere. And so you could just imagine like the experiences and even like not personal at all or anything like that. Just what you see and what you kind of encounter and putting them together and like you said, refining them over, I'm sure you add stuff from like bits and pieces of every aspect of your life.
Yeah, that I'm always intaking information, and then I make metaphors out of like my life all the time. And I watch other people's lives and I'm like, oh, you have that same experience or that similar pattern, and let's like try to capture that somehow, captivate that sound or that word or that phrase, I don't know. Yeah. So I collect these and I have like memos of it and just like all these little notes that I take.
And then, like moving forward, do you think that, that your style is going to change or that your writing style is going to change and then like ultimately like, go back to the classical roots that you have? Or, these are more jazzy, more, like pop-driven, synth, electrical feel to them? Like, do you think you'll ever go back and put out, like, a classical EP or album, like, just strictly?
I don't think I would go strictly classical, although I feel like inevitably it's always going to be an influencer for me. I think, man, I do have ideas and loads and I think I'm a very eclectic listener as well as person, and so actually I've thought of more jazzy sounds. I've thought something a little bit more classical in the background. I've thought of like another pop like album thing coming out soon, so I think it will be an evolution, and I would get bored if I were just to do one thing for forever. I mean, I that's just me. I can barely keep my mind like centered for 10 minutes. Like,
you need to change it up, mix it up.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, as an artist, that's like one of the best ways to grow. It really just is. You just push yourself into different genres because there's like, you can get into a flow of anything and then be stuck in that vocabulary or that rhetoric or those harmonies and never venture into, wait, my playing is being stretched right now just because I never play those kind of scales or things like that. So,
Gotcha. And then, when you're performing these songs live, I mean, I know you have your guitar here with us today, so kind of like translating those into acoustic, how has that been? Do you find that the songs have, you're like, oh, like this actually sounds better on guitar than it does on the piano kind of thing? Do you ever run into those when you're kind of like jamming or whatever?
Yeah,
and,
that's such a great question. Actually, all of these came first from piano. I actually feel most comfortable with piano. Like, I was recording the other night and my friend was like, why don't you just pretend like you're playing the piano on the table? And I was like, yeah, there's something that is so comforting about it because that has been home for so long that I am addicted to that. But I try to be flexible, and I always think, like, my friends come back to me and they're like, I actually like this version of the song on guitar, don't worry about it. It's just like got a more intimate feel to it. I love when I add harms to everything, so if I have backup singers, it's like a whole nother thing. It's like a little bit more grand. So I actually, as a singer-songwriter, I love the challenge of making a different arrangement, because it's like I get a skeleton and the way that I put flesh on it every time is different. And so that's also another creative challenge for me is like, okay, how would that sound on a guitar?
Yeah.
So
you ever like have, you know, a friend or something like, hey, play this while I play the piano, kind of like mesh together to see like which style you want to go with?
It's funny because I'm doing that right now with I've done it with a few musicians, but particularly been working with my drummer who is got like an indie synth pop background, and we were just like, we went to the Green Mill recently and watched a fantastic jazz like performance, and then I was talking to him about like implementing some of those kind of rhythms and things like that, and we were just laughing because it's like a stretch for both of us to figure out how to work with each other. And every musician comes with their like strong points, weak points, but also their like groove. And so every person brings a different thing, and we've jammed. I've actually never had someone play keys for me just because I am super picky about keys, and I'm like, I know how to do this the way that I know how to do it. So I stick to it. A little bit too controlling, but maybe I actually had that thought today, so maybe you're just tapping into something.
Tapping it in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where can all of our listeners tune in, hear your music, find you on social media, all that good stuff?
Great. I am on iTunes, Spotify. I would say Spotify, search Suri and put As I Am, because there are different Suris around the world, and so that's a little bit more easy to find me. So put As I Am after Suri. I'm also on SoundCloud with I Am Suri Music. I'm on Instagram, and I have a lot of my music up on my website as well, surimusic.com. And you can find a list of the events that are going to be happening in my life, like all performances and things like that, as well as the new music video that I just dropped.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube too. So although YouTube, you probably need to type in Suri space music in the search bar before you find me. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. You do have one final song for us.
Yes,
right?
I do.
All right, we're going to close it out with that. This is Wild Thing, and be sure to keep tuning in. We have more for you right here on Radio 1 Chicago.
Never love a wild thing that comes and goes as it was. Charm you with its beauty, then suddenly it's gone. You must just get it away and fight precisely not. You can nurture it, and then it grew strong. But how it's all so wide. It's amazing when it flies. Soon all you're doing is staring at the sky. You gave it a choice, no need for a device. Liberty's not free, it always has a price. It may not be safe, but oh, what if it's true? It's best when it returns, then you know it left your toe. But how it's so wide. It's amazing when it flies. Soon all you're doing is
Okay. We got something coming up. Just a little while. The barbershop chair,